Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Once Upon a Time. Quite a few things went down in this episode. First of all, we see Dr. Facilier kind of return and kind of making his presence known. It seems very auspicious timing because he comes back just when Victoria dies. And seems like, much like Victoria, it seems like he kind of has a little bit of a dabble in everything because we end up getting introduced to, well, his real name is like Prince Naveen, but under the curse, his name is Drew, played by the actor who plays Jeff on Beyond. I thought that was kind of interesting. I was like, hey! But nevertheless, he has a connection to Sabine, or rather, Tatiana, because, initially Tatiana tries and it's something she obviously still keeps that aspect as Sabine, is the fact that she's not very good at leaning on other people because she feels like it stems from all the fact is as a new, soon to be queen, she feels like she needs to bear all the responsibility for herself. And so she doesn't really rely on people. So when she meets the prince, she's not really all that keen on him. It's just like, oh, she just assumes she knows everything there is to know. It's like, oh, you're this way, you don't take anything seriously. The fact of the matter is, but quickly learns that the reason why he's on the hunt for the alligator and everything is because his brother died. It was kind of interesting that what he ended up getting, she noticed, I didn't catch what it was, but she noticed he had something that she's like, no, that's Dr. Facilier. So what's this about? Immediately my brain was like, oh, is that his brother or something that he just didn't know? But it's like, no. But it seems like it's just manipulation upon manipulation. I guess he's the one that sent, probably laid the groundwork for the prince to go after the alligator that killed his brother. So for him to meet Tiana, and then for them to kind of create a bond to the point that she would want to save its life, and basically because of it he has to pay the price, which is all he talks about is the fact is he was sent away far away that won't be able to reach him. So it's what that really means, I don't know. It's really hard to say what that whole situation is about because we are just getting to see him again in this episode, so it's really hard to say what he's 100% up to. What I wasn't expecting at all is the fact is the connection between him and Regina, because when he first pops up it's like, oh, Regina, and she's like, Dr. Facilier. It's like, oh, you know him? It's like, yeah. Apparently the way they talk and the way they discuss, he's like, oh, I miss my queen. It's like there was a little bit of something there back when Regina was the evil queen and everything like that. So, which is also interesting. I mean, to be fair, I guess, when she was the evil queen, she's crossed over into different worlds. I mean, I'm sure Facilier has been to other worlds too. It's just one of those things where it's like only world you've ever really seen Regina in is the Enchanted Forest and this world, the non-magic world. So maybe, that's the open-endedness of this show is the fact of the matter is you can always go back in and just fill in some details. I mean, to be fair, she has traveled to other worlds even back then being the evil queen, didn't she? I don't remember if she's ever really done that too much. But, I mean, nevertheless, it's come up in the show, but it's just kind of I don't know, it's just kind of interesting that they would meet, And interestingly enough, be a pair. I guess because, obviously this is back when she was a villain, he's a villain, so they made kind of a cute couple. It's kind of like the whole, evil queen and Rumpelstiltskin type of situation. There's something there because you're both kind of evil. He's the dark one. You're the infamous evil queen. So I guess this kind of works the similar way. And it seems like there is some attraction there that even Regina can't even find herself to fight. Even at the end when he's like, oh, come into my place. It's like, oh, you can do whatever you want to. And then Regina feels the need to go in because I think legitimately, he tugs at that side of her, that dark side of her. He kind of tugs at it. And I think it's also from a part of her being oh, I kind of remember what it was like to begin. Let's not forget the condition of her heart. She has she brought a little bit of the darkness back in herself. So she is kind of back to that whole aspect of challenging the darkness and having to still deal with the darkness. It's almost an addiction type of thing. Being evil is kind of her addiction and she has to kind of fight it on a daily basis. Even more so now, obviously, she gave half her heart to the evil queen and the evil queen's and she's got half of the evil queens. So that way they're not all one thing, that they are kind of half and half, kind of essentially like they were before, to kind of compensate for them being two separate beings now, as they both have a little bit of each other in the other. And so maybe he's pulling at that, like that dark side of her heart's remembering the good times and all that they did together. And maybe it's also even the light side of her might be thinking like, oh, there was something there, so it's hard to kind of beat back that attraction. It'd be kind of interesting if that was the case, though. I mean, because the thing is, like, I'm sure that's going to be something that kind of pops up, but Regina would never do anything like crossover, especially because too much is riding on a line here, because Henry's life is at stake. But to be fair, that might end up, I feel like that might play a role in some shape or form when it's all said and done. Because Facilia might have the power or some means to break the curse without it killing Henry, you know? So that might be another reason why Regina might go to him. There's also this little bit of a storyline that kind of brought back up. So the whole fact is that, Zelena is kind of engaged, and she kind of quickly brings it up, her fiance. But it's like, no, I'm just gonna ignore the call, which immediately my brain goes, he's going to come to the heights to track you down. I just know it's going to be true. I just got that inkling, but we'll ultimately wait and see. Like I said, just because the fact is they went out of their way to introduce that like that kind of makes me wonder. But Dr. Facilia also has a connection to Drew in this world because he's using Drew to get close to Sabine for the purposes of. Because I was wondering about that. I was like, oh, Drew had nothing to do with it, so it probably was really, well, he's using the name Sandy, but I was like, oh, it really was Dr. Facilia. It's like, oh, they're just being manipulated and stuff like that. It's like, well, Sabine's the one being manipulated because Drew is being, what I would assume it's just because he's got some dirt on Drew, the reason why he's able to get Drew to do this. But it's like, oh, get close to her, make her feel good, because it's like Sabine's going to lead him to what he wants. I guess it's connected. I'm gonna assume, like, I don't know, I guess it's, because whatever it is, it's something she had, like Tiana has it. So it must be something Tiana related. Cause I'm about to say, like, it could be like getting close to Jacinda and Lucy type of thing. It's like, no, it has to be her as Tiana. Because interestingly enough, like what he ended up getting for the alligator, I think I brought it up, but I think I quickly got distracted, which I thought was kind of an interesting thing because that's closer to the whole Peter Pan storyline, because obviously in this storyline, the crocodile is Rumpelstiltskin, but in this case, it's like the literal crocodile had something inside of it. Instead of it being a watch, it was a necklace, but I would assume it was supposed to be the pocket watch. That's what I was thinking that was supposed to be. But nevertheless, I'm kind of wondering what the significance of that necklace is. Maybe that's exactly what it is. Maybe Tiana has that somewhere, and that's why he wants it. Maybe it's connected to his powers. Maybe it's his way of getting Regina back, and once they're reunited, it's like then he'll have access to Regina's magic too. I don't know. We ultimately have to, like I said, wait and see. Because the sad thing is Drew doesn't want to do it. He actually feels bad about it. But like I said, I don't know what kind of like dirt Sandy has on him that's manipulating him into doing this. I guess it's that situation of like maybe Drew's kind of down on his luck and he doesn't have the support of his family or something. And so this is the only way he can get by doing stuff like this. But like I said, we'll wait and see. Another thing I thought was kind of interesting about this episode was like, oh yeah, you have like Lucy being like, oh yeah, like Victoria showed me the other books, so I know like, I know the whole truth now. So she's kind of like, okay, you guys need a kiss or whatever. And it's like Regina is trying so hard to keep the true love from happening between Jacinda and Henry for the purposes of breaking the curse or kill him. But obviously Lucy doesn't know, so it's kind of interesting. But ultimately, when she, like, what falls out her book is a page from the storybook. And it's like, oh, Henry's, like, cursed and he will die if the true love kiss happens. And she's like, no. Because the thing is, like, even with all her beliefs and everything, it's interesting enough because Regina actually hasn't visited her. They're like, because Lucy knows the truth and everything. So I guess, I don't know, because like Lucy doesn't know that Regina and Zelena are awake. That's like her, technically, I mean, that's her grandma and her aunt. Or would that be great aunt? I guess that'd be kind of the proper term for it. Because even Lucy doesn't really know who everyone is in the storybook. So, but like also she doesn't know that they're awake because she probably thinks like everyone around her is asleep. Even her great grandfather doesn't really even realize that he's awake and that he's a part of this. I mean, to be fair, he's kind of kept his distance too. So, but she is probably going, like, she already kind of set things in motion, but it does seem like she's going to try and kind of like, instead of like, oh, trying to put them together, she's going to be trying to break them up. But it's already kind of started and you can already tell they feel deeply for each other. So that might be something we also see in the future too, like, Lucy going to Regina and like, oh, hey, okay, I know what we have to do, to try and protect Henry, even if it means breaking her heart, at least this way, they, like, Jacinda will be even more heartbroken if Henry dies. So it might be that kind of justification. It's like, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. And then another development is finding out more about this killer that killed Lucy's doctor. Because it turns out that same killer pops up later on and is trying to get another victim. It's the lady Hilda who runs the bakery. And the moment I saw her, I was like, the actress looks familiar. I don't remember what I know her from. But the moment I saw her, I'm like, you're this story's version of the witch from Hansel and Gretel. I only say that because in the original, like in the other world, that same witch, she's blind because I think the only time you've ever met her was in the underworld. Well, she popped up in like obviously flashbacks, but I think canonically currently she was in the underworld and she was blind. So, and the whole fact is she's running a bakery and everything. It's like, okay, especially later on because it's like, oh yeah, she's definitely like a witch because Weaver Rumpel ends up figuring out like, oh, all that doctor, Lucy's doctor, as well as this lady are witches. They're being targeted, even the cut hair and everything. It's because they're part of this coven. I know they're witches and they're trying to be a part. Like, I guess, does that mean Grendel? Not Grendel. So does that mean Gothel knows that like these are her sisters for this coven and everything? Or not? I mean, because last time we saw, like, Gothel was like, oh, we're going to have to track them down. I mean, it's probably a situation of they're under the curse and she doesn't know who they are under the curse. Maybe she never actually, because the last time we saw them, they were all wearing hoods, which granted, there's like 8 of them, which I'm sure Anastasia's supposed to be the 8th one. So eventually she's going to be a target, much like Gothel. So that's at least one that's dead, one that's severely injured. So there's at least, 3 more? I suck at math. 3 or 4 more. I don't feel like doing the math in my head. I know it's simple math. I don't feel like doing it in my head. There's at least 3 or 4 more that are unaccounted for. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I thought that was going to be a bigger part of the season. Like, oh, we're going to track them down. I was like, no, they're just out there and they're just slowly going to get targeted. Like I said, maybe Gothel's kind of gotten to some, but I don't know. We'll ultimately, I mean, to be fair, it's something that Killian and Weaver kind of looked at, was like, she knows more than she's letting on. So Hilda might actually be awake. I don't know if Lucy's doctor was necessary. I would assume like the tattoos and everything makes you think that they are awake. Maybe they just haven't gotten together to like kind of do their thing. So maybe she's found all the witches. So we'll have to wait and see. But it's like, why, other than like, was it just timing? Because it's like, why kill Lucy's doctor and also take that information, proving that Henry is Lucy's dad? Like, what purpose does that make, you know? Like I said, initially I was thinking it was the guy who is really Jack, but the guy who thinks he's actually Lucy's dad. Him, like, I thought it was going to be him, but it's like, but for what purpose would anyone have killing witches? Who and what? Is it Facilia? Does he have something to do with that? I mean, I'd almost chalk it up to Gothel doing it just to get more powerful, but I feel like getting the coven together first, and if she was going to take their powers, do it like that all together first rather than killing them like that. So it's like someone else is at play here. For what purpose? I don't know. But the fact is they're targeting these witches specifically, but that does beg the question, does that mean they'd go after other witches too, like Zelena and Regina? Even though they don't have magic in this world, they're still witches. What about Drizella? Because Drizella is actually, one dude. Granted, she doesn't have her magic anymore, but still. You know what's actually kind of interesting? I didn't even think about it till just now. Because I was just thinking to myself, it's like, oh man, that's so dark that Victoria's actually dead. I was like, that didn't happen in the original story. Then I was like, oh, like that's too like super wrong. Because like earlier on in the season, one person did die in the original town, and that was Graham. He was the huntsman from because there was a thing between him and Emma, and plus he kind of woke up. But Regina ended up crushing his heart. So I was like, yeah, I think he was the only fatality in like Under the Curse, wasn't he? So Victoria is. I don't know if that's going to be a permanent thing, because death isn't always 100% permanent in this show. In some cases, like there's more often than not, it typically is. But and kind of getting back to the Regina and Facilia situation, I'm curious. Like the fact is that there's still that little thing between them. Kind of makes me think that time we saw them meeting at Tiana's castle was probably like one of the last times they saw each other. I would say before the curse, but to be fair, Lucy's still like baby at that time. She's not a little girl yet, so obviously the curse hasn't been enacted. Well, no, because I keep forgetting, like, because I'm idiotic for whatever reason. I kind of forget, like, in those situations, the children still age once they come to this world. I guess because magic hasn't awakened in them, so they don't really age the same way. Because, like, let's not forget, Emma came to this world and obviously aged like a normal person, not normal kid. I said person. I felt weird when I said it like that. But it's like for Lucy, she's still a baby. So when she came to this world, she was still a baby too, underneath the curse and everything. So it could legitimately be that was one of the last times they saw each other before the curse was activated. So that is something to think about. That might be why Regina's feeling the pull even more, because whatever is between them was never probably like fully settled, you know, because meeting each other like that probably resurfaced, like I said, some old feelings. And so they haven't seen each other since like the curse got activated. So I don't know. And also, I think I meant to bring this up earlier too, was the whole aspect of Lucy in the book. Who gave her that page? Where did that page come from? I would assume Victoria, or I don't know. I feel like someone had to have left her that page. Like, not unless it was like Regina or something, but it's like the last person we saw with the book was Victoria. So not unless that was meant to kind of like an extra kind of like to break Lucy's spirit a little bit more, like not unless that was kind of an added bonus. But because the fact is, I feel like she would have noticed it by now, but the fact is she got distracted at her closet and she came back and it was there. So it's like someone else put that there potentially. So I wonder, is it like a fairy godmother situation? Is that kind of, I mean, to be fair, like we know Ella's fairy godmother is dead, and Victoria kind of settled that a long time ago. So the question is, like, does, you know, Lucy have one or something like that? I don't know, that was just something kind of wondering in the back of my mind. It's like, once you get a fairy godmother, do you only get one and there's no other replacement? You know, because like there's whole like, I don't know. That was just kind of something that was rattling in the back of my brain. I don't know if that's something they'll ever really kind of go over, but nevertheless, I'm very interested to see what goes down in the next episode with all of this, whether any of my thoughts end up being true, which they most likely won't be. But I'm just curious to see where all of this is going in the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, love life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good